welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Katie. This is our lovely rescue Oscar. We've had him for just over a month, and as you can see, he's settling in very nicely. Oscar is just over a year and a half old, I think, and he's a rescue from Cyprus. He is a Pomeranian, and this is our beautiful 3-year-old Pomeranian Peppy. On this channel we talk a lot about dogs. I talk a little bit about fashion, a little bit about travel, and some other things as well. But today I wanted to talk to you about separation anxiety. Please excuse the dog licking his privates. So separation anxiety isn't actually something that we had dealt with before getting Oscar. As he's a rescue, typically when you do get a rescue, they do tend to come with a few little issues. Not all rescues do, but he definitely has a few, don't you? Do you have a few issues? He's an absolutely gorgeous, loving boy, but there are a few things that we are having to try and iron out with him, and we're working with him, and he's really getting there. But separation anxiety is one of the hardest things to get out of him. Look how loving he is. He's such a sweetheart. So I wanted to talk to you about separation anxiety today, because when I've shared that we're going through this process on Instagram and even in previous YouTube videos, a lot of you guys have said that separation anxiety is something that you are dealing with or have dealt with as well in the past, and it's a very common problem, especially with what's going on in the world at the moment with coronavirus. Obviously in the UK here, we locked down for quite a while, so our dogs were with us 24/7, and now people have had to go back to work and things like that. The dogs don't understand what's going on. They don't understand why they're suddenly not with their owners again, and it's difficult for them, which leads us to separation anxiety. So I'm going to talk through a few of the things so that you can tell if your dog does have it or not. So it happens commonly in rescue dogs. It's a huge change in their lifestyle. With Oscar, he's come from Cyprus, he's come from a completely different country, and he had 2 previous owners before that. So he lived with a family, then he was fostered, and then he's come to us. So in his short little life, that's a lot to have to deal with. Dogs also can start getting separation anxiety with a change in your life. So say for instance, you've just got a new job, you've just had a baby, you've brought a new person into the house, or you've moved house. Something like that can really set off a dog with having separation anxiety. We also see it in young puppies. So you can imagine you've been with your mum for however many months, and then suddenly you're ripped away from her and deposited in this new home where you don't really know the people, you're trying to get used to it all, and it's just all a big change. So puppies obviously have it for the first few, maybe months, quite a lot of the time. It can literally be weeks and they get settled. But yeah, we see it in puppies as well. And as I've mentioned, with lockdown and people going back to work, this can really be something that dogs are now struggling with. Are you leaving us? Where are you going? What are you doing, boy? It can also happen if they've had an animal companion in the house and that animal leaves or dies or something like that. They can really get quite anxious and stressed about that. We also see it with bored dogs. Once you know the reason why your dog is acting this way, it's a lot easier to try and change it. Obviously, if your dog is bored and showing signs of separation anxiety, so easy to deal with. You just need to get them out, stimulate them, take them for a long walk and things like that, but I'll get into that in a minute. So the signs that your dog does have separation anxiety. A big sign for us is that Oscar follows us everywhere. And I used to say that Peppy's my little shadow and that she follows me everywhere, but Oscar is on like a whole new meaning. If I literally go to the bathroom, he'll sit outside the door and cry until I come back out again. So it's things like that. If we're sitting on the sofa and I get up to make a cup of tea, or I go get some water or whatever, nip to the loo, it's things like that. He will get up with me and follow me around the house wherever I'm going. And a lot of people won't have a problem with this. I find it highly irritating. It's fine the first few times, but when you're getting up every 5 minutes and the dog just wants to follow you everywhere, it can become quite difficult. It's not behavior that we typically want to see. So that's something I've been trying to change. Also, when you leave the house, this is when separation anxiety really kicks in. So if your dog is crying, howling, barking, peeing on the floor or toileting on the floor, pacing, sometimes they can vomit, sometimes they can self-mutilate, so they'll chew their own paws until they're bleeding, and they can also cause masses of destruction to property as well. So if you've got a door or something, dogs have been known to literally chew through walls before when left alone. So it's definitely not something we want, and they can cause thousands of pounds worth of damage. So it's definitely something that we want to try and train out of our dogs. What not to do. The worst thing you can do if your dog has separation anxiety and causes a mess or goes to the toilet when you're out, the worst thing you can do is get angry at them and shout at them and tell them off when you get home, because this is literally going to lead the dog won't understand. They'll understand that you're telling them off, but they won't necessarily attribute to the behavior that they've done previously. So even though you think that you come home, like, a dog knows if it's done something wrong, if it's shredded something or whatever, but if you shout at them, it's just going to make it 10 times worse, and they'll start to not only fear you leaving the house, but they'll start to fear you coming back, because they'll worry that you're going to tell them off again. So what we've seen a lot with Oscar is that he submissively pees. Now what this means is that he's showing social appeasement. So when we come home, and he gets excited, he'll wee everywhere. Basically showing us that he knows that we are above him. He's showing himself to be submissive to us. And same, like, if we have told him off for anything, which is very rare since I've realised that this is what happens, he will pee himself, because he's trying to show you that, okay, I know, you're top dog, I'm not trying to do anything wrong, I'm showing you I'm submissive to you. So he wheezes, which again isn't really behaviour that we want, because say for instance he's on your favourite cream sofa, and you can see I put blankets down on the sofa, and you tell them off for being on there and they just cower and pee, what's going to happen? So yeah, basically he shows this behaviour as well if you go to stroke him in the wrong way or something like that. So always approach a dog stroking them underneath their chin. Go on then, you can go up. He's very good, he asks to come up. Come on, up. You coming up? What are you doing, boy? Come on, have you go. Come on then. Oh, I'll lift you up. There you go. Good boy. But he really is such a sweet, sweet dog. He just has these little things going on. Oops, you've just changed this for me. Thank you, Oscar. So telling them off when you come home can really just lead the behaviour to get worse and worse. They may be even more destructive. They may toilet everywhere even more. Why are you... He's holding and licking my hand. Can I have that back? Thank you. This one is so calm and quiet. She always falls asleep in my videos, in case this is your first time here. So this leads us on to what to do, and I know this is probably why you are here. First and foremost, try not to let them follow you around the house too much. So this comes with practice. With Oscar, when I sit on the sofa and I go to get up, if I think he's going to follow me out the room, I'll sit back down again. And I'll keep doing this Jack-in-the-Box momentum until he understands that me getting up doesn't mean that he needs to get up as well. I could just be getting up to scratch my leg or, I don't know, to brush my hair or something, and it doesn't mean that he needs to follow me. So that's the first thing that we've been doing. I will get up and down until I feel like I can leave the room, and then again I'll leave the room, come back in, leave the room, come back in, until he figures out that me leaving the room isn't a problem. Nothing's going to change if I leave the room. He does it a little bit with Ben as well, my husband, but not as much as he does with me. That's one thing to do for in the house. I will, if I think he's going to follow me into another room and I don't want him to, I'll body block. So I'll just say back, and he understands that he needs to stay in that room, and I'll keep doing that. I'll just move my body towards him and just make him get back with my body until he understands. So that's another way of keeping them in one room. Next, one thing that we found as well is the separation anxiety at night. So this is a real problem with him. We've had him just over a month and he will still cry at night. As soon as we put him in there, I settle them both. We've always had a very strong routine with Peppy, and that's something that I highly recommend. If you have a strong routine with your dog, they start to predict what's going to happen, and they understand that nothing untoward is really going to happen within that day. So we'll put them to bed, and we've ended up buying a baby gate. We made a huge mistake. The first night we had Oscar, I say night, we had him for 2 hours. Basically, we drove to London to collect him, and then we got home at 6 in the morning and had to go and pick Peppy up that morning as well from my parents' house. So we ended up deciding that we wanted to sleep for 2 hours between 6 and 9. He cried as soon as we left him. We wanted him to sleep in the kitchen, but we didn't really make that clear. And because we wanted him to get used to his surroundings, we left all the doors open, and we left our bedroom door open as well. We both fell asleep, woke up, he was on the bed, and since then it's been a real struggle to try and get him to sleep in the kitchen where Peppy also sleeps. So for about a month he's been sleeping on the stairs, which isn't ideal. For things like if we needed to go downstairs and get something and he's there and then he's following us up and down the stairs, it just doesn't really work. So for a long time we had the baby gate on the stairs, at the top of the stairs, to stop him coming up onto the landing. But eventually we realised actually it's got to go on the kitchen door, because we left them a few times, and essentially we thought because it wouldn't be fair on Peppy. So Peppy has always had free reign of the house when we go out. She'll take herself upstairs and she'll go and sleep upstairs on a pile of our clothes or on the landing or wherever. So we didn't think it was very fair locking her in the kitchen, but eventually we've thought for the greater good, we just need to shut them both in the kitchen when we leave, and that's their safe space. So ideally within that one room or the area that you're deciding that you want to keep your dog in, you want really good things to happen in that room. So we feed the dogs in the kitchen, they have their beds in the kitchen, we give them treats in the kitchen, and we try to spend a lot of time in the kitchen as well with them in their beds. And a way to help this as well, we send them to their beds before we feed them, and they have to wait in their beds before they get fed. So they know going into their bed, they get fed. So that then, teaching them to go to their beds when we feed them means that we've taught them to go to their beds. So when we say, right, time to go to your bed, they know to go to their beds. And it's still a bit of a struggle with this one. He runs and sits on the stairs in the evening when we want him to go to his bed, which can be a little bit tricky. We normally have to pick him up and go and physically put him in his bed. But we're getting there with it. During the evenings, one thing I will say is set up the routine that you want to have forever. So have your puppy, if it's a puppy or a rescue dog, have them sleep the first night where you want them to sleep the whole time. We weren't forceful enough with this with Oscar, and we really should have been. So now we're trying to bring back the behaviour that we want. But we are getting there. He previously would wee and toilet all over the floor at night with anxiety. So he would get so worked up, he would cry, he would scratch, he would do circles in the room, he would pace back and forth and pant so heavily, and he would make a mess everywhere. It was awful to come down in the morning. We had to get the mop out and the bucket. Yeah, it just wasn't fun for anybody. So what we have now done is set up this bedtime routine. When he cries, we give him 0 attention. And this is the same thing you should do with puppies, or if you get a rescue as well. Just pay them no attention when they cry at night. Obviously, you want to make sure they're safe and they're not crying for a reason that's they're hurt or trapped or something's happened. But when you've established that they're absolutely fine, they're just crying to get attention, then you just leave them. A dog will take attention, especially a rescue. Sadly, they'll take attention whether it's good or bad. They just want love and attention from you. So if you're going down to tell them off, they'll take that and they'll keep doing it. So if you go in and tell them off for barking or for howling or whatever, they'll just keep doing that behavior because they know it means that you're going to come down and talk to them whether it's good or bad. So ignoring them completely, they end up getting the message and they are quiet. We have had, for the last few nights, Oscar will bark randomly in the night, and we haven't figured out what it is. It could be foxes outside or something like that, but again, we try to ignore him completely. And in the morning at about 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock, Ben typically will get up and out of bed at about 6, 7ish. That's when his body clock wakes him up. I like to sleep in until about 7:30, 8. So he has now decided that that's his time to get up. So his body clock wakes up and he's going, come on, hurry up, where are you? Get up. So he'll bark and bark and bark and bark for attention. And we are now trying to just ignore him, and we only go down when he's quiet and calm. A few things that have really, really helped us. The baby gate, having a Kong, and having a Furbo. So the baby gate goes on the kitchen door, in the door frame, and stops him from going anywhere else in the house. A Kong, if you haven't heard of a Kong, it's like a little rubber, I should have brought it in here to show you. It's a little rubber toy that you can fill with treats, and we have like a doggy peanut butter. Don't give dogs pure peanut butter, by the way, because there are things in it that could be poisonous to them. Make sure it's a doggy friendly peanut butter if you're going to give them that. So we have a doggy friendly peanut butter that we put in there with treats and things, so it makes it a little bit more difficult for him to get the treats out and things like that. And the third thing is the Furbo. So a Furbo is a camera that you can also put treats in. It has, essentially you can hear what's going on in the room, and when you choose to, they can also hear you. So you can communicate with your pet. Those three things are key to helping him when we go out anywhere. Firstly, what I will say is that, again, it takes time. You need to build it up. So we have practiced leaving the house, coming back in. We'll go out for 2 minutes and come back in. We'll go out for 30 seconds and come back in. And we do this every so often. We'll just shut the door, shut them in the kitchen, and go out for intermittent periods of time, just so he knows we're always going to come back. Now, I have read elsewhere as well that they say to have one word command when you're going to go out and come back, so that the dog always knows you're going to come back. But I feel getting them used to you going out anyway makes more sense. Because say, for instance, if you've got someone looking after them, or your partner's in and forgets to use that word, then they may get worried that you're then not going to come back. Obviously, I'm just sharing what's working for us, and these are the things that really, really have helped and have helped settle him a lot too. So let me talk about those three things and how we use them separately, starting with the stair gate, or the baby gate. So ours is a baby gate. I'll link everything down below so you can buy it if you want to. And we just decided enough was enough. We just need a baby gate. You're right, boy, what was that? And it's just going to make our lives so much easier. So it goes on the kitchen door. Our kitchen floor is all like a tile type thing, like a fake plastic tile, so easily wipeable if anything happens. And the dogs sleep down in the kitchen, and we put the baby gate up so we can shut them in there. We've done things like, this is a fairly new sofa, we brought the sofa in and we shut them in the kitchen. And what a baby gate does is that, because it's only got the bars that they can see through it, it makes them a lot more comfortable than just a closed door where they can't see anything going on. And with the kitchen, because the windows are higher up and all they've got is the cabinets, it can feel quite enclosed. Another benefit to the baby gate as well is that because it is bars and there are gaps in the bars, rather than having your dog scratching at a door and digging at a door, because quite often they'll try and get out of the space that you've put them in to be able to get to you, the benefit of having the bars is that when they go to dig, their feet just fall through the bars anyway, so they can't get any traction on that. And they can't do any damage, which is amazing. Probably one of the main things about the baby gate, and a massive benefit of it for us, is that when we leave, we try not to make a big deal of leaving. Obviously we'll put a few of the other things we do, we put on the classical music or like a talking channel. I think Ben puts on like BBC 5 Live or something, which is people talking, so that there's no, if it's deathly silent in the house, it's generally a little bit, they'll be more on guard because they can hear random noises and things like that. But when they have like a background noise, then it's really good. And obviously when you're at home, they're used to listening to the TV on or the radio or whatever, so they're used to that background noise and they like that. So we tend to have the radio on for them. We don't make a massive deal of leaving the house either. We tend to kind of put them in there and then start to get ourselves ready and busy them away with their Kong and other things as well. And then the other thing is, when we come home, we try not to make a massive deal about coming home either. You don't want to be coming home and going, oh my goodness, how have you been? Have you been good dogs? Because that excites them, right? But if you come home, you take your coat off, you put your bag away, and typically we kind of try to leave it at least 5-10 minutes. Some people suggest leaving it half an hour. But we try to leave it 5-10 minutes until they fully calm down, and only when they're fully calm do we open the baby gate. And typically what we'll do is we'll open the back door and let them go straight outside. He still gets so excited when we come home. He flips around in circles like this and goes absolutely nuts. But what we want to try and do is reinforce that calm behavior. So only when they're really calm do we stroke them, do we pay them attention. So if he's begging attention off us, and he's putting his paw on us and nudging us for attention, we try and ignore him, and only when he's not paying attention to us do we go, come on then, come on, and we'll give him attention and we'll give him strokes and cuddles and things like that, because then it's on our terms, right? It's not on his terms. And same for when we come home. When we come home, we're very calm, and eventually we'll open the gate when they're calm and we'll lead them outside. And we'll completely ignore them. The best way to ignore them is if they're jumping up, which he does loads of, you just turn your back, and so they're jumping up to nothing, and they tend to stop then. And then only when they're really calm do we greet them and say, have you been all right? Obviously we talk to our dogs, I don't know if you do too. Then we'll pay them attention and give them the affection that they've been craving the whole time. And what we tend to notice is that he will go straight to the water bowl and drink loads of water, and that's not a bad thing. That just shows that he's been waiting for us to come home, and the waiting thing is a good thing. That's what we want them to do. We want them to just wait, and we don't want them to be worked up and worried about what's going on. So the fact that he goes and drinks is fine. It just means that he's not really been drinking that much while we've been out, because he's just been waiting for us to come home. And if he's not drinking loads anyway, then that means that he's less likely to pee himself, which also isn't a bad thing. Moving on to the Kong. Firstly, what I will say is that you need to desensitize your dog to something like a Kong before you just leave it with them. If you just leave them in a room with it, their mind will go straight to, I need to get out, I need to get back to my owner, how do I get out and do that? Rather than, oh, I can busy myself with this thing that they've left me here. So desensitizing is really, really handy. We did that by just being in our comfy space like this on the sofa. When you just give it to them, what we tend to do is use doggy peanut butter to put in it with the treats inside. So it makes him have to work out how to get the treats out of there, and it just keeps their mind occupied essentially. So when you desensitize them, have them like in an environment that they're comfortable in. So for instance here, or if we're all in the kitchen, if I'm prepping supper or something like that, I'll give it to him. So it keeps his mind busy and he's not worried about what we're doing, and then you can leave them with it. So what I'll do is a few minutes before we go out, I'll give him the Kong to be able to start to work on, and then when we do go out, his mind is already focused on that, he's already busy, and he's not necessarily looking at what we're doing. I say that, he does still, immediately when we leave, he will kind of try and follow us, but then this is where the Kong makes a difference, because he'll then go back to that, he'll go, oh, actually I remember I was doing that before, let me go back to that and let me busy my mind with that instead, which is a godsend. The other thing to mention is that a Kong is obviously made of like a rubber substance, so when we do go out, when he's finished with the treats and everything and all the yummy stuff inside that, excuse him licking himself again, he has that to chew on, and chewing is a massive stress reliever for dogs, so they chew to relieve all their stress, and it's just quite a nice thing for them to occupy themselves with, rather than thinking about all their emotions and stuff like that. Chewing relieves a lot for them, so it's great to have a few chew toys around, and we tend to try and leave some in the kitchen with them when we do go out. So then the Furbo, this has been something, we actually had this when we got Peppy, so cute, I love it when she does that. So it was something that we wanted to get. We were living in a flat when we got her, and we wanted to be able to see what she was doing when we went out, because obviously if she was barking or anything like that in a flat, that kind of antisocial behaviour can be really worrying. And on that note, actually, I will say as well, if you are getting a puppy or you're getting a rescue dog and you do have neighbours, not all of us live in the middle of nowhere, and most of us, it's highly likely that we live either in a flat or a house that's attached to someone else or within close proximity to a neighbour. So just as a common courtesy, I would go over and tell them what's happening, or send them a text and just say, listen, I'm getting a new puppy or I'm getting a rescue dog. Just so you know, we're going to be trying really hard with them and training them up, but for the first few months it may be a little bit louder than usual. You may hear barking, you may hear whining, things like that, until they get used to it. And this is actually something that we did with our neighbours, so hopefully they're not too disturbed by his barking and things like that, because sometimes he does bark in the middle of the night, and I do always worry whether or not our neighbours, we are a semi-detached house, so I do wonder if next door can hear much. They said it's okay and they haven't heard much, but the little girls have said that they hear some stuff sometimes, so I do worry a little bit. But yeah, it's just courtesy to drop them a note, let them know that you are getting a dog and it's going to be a little bit louder than usual. Most people will not have a problem with it and they'll be totally understanding, but yeah, it's just good to let them know, and then at least it's a bit of a weight off your mind and you've given them fair warning. So the Furbo was something that we got when Peppy was a puppy, because we wanted to keep an eye on her and see that she was okay, and we didn't often leave her for very long, to be honest. She's always come pretty much everywhere with us. It's not been that much of an issue, but when we do leave her at home, we realise she just sleeps. She sleeps the whole time we're out, and she's really not that fussed when we're gone. It doesn't worry her, it doesn't bother her. Sometimes she'll get up and wander about, but she doesn't exhibit any kind of behaviour that we would worry about. But when we started to put up the camera with Oscar, we very quickly realised that we had a very different dog on our hands, and he really does not like to be left without us. You can imagine, they live in a pack. If a member of the pack is away from the others, that's not natural to them, but it's very natural for us. And so we need to get him used to the behaviour that we are going to be doing. With the Furbo, the first time we used it and the first time we spoke through it, he freaked out and it made his behaviour 10 times worse. But as he started to understand how we worked and how dinner time worked and how it worked when we told him to go to his bed and things like that, it made it so much easier for us. So now, if he ever exhibits behaviour that we don't want, when we leave the house, immediately he starts pacing and gets worried. But I don't tend to worry too much. I have notifications on the Furbo, so anytime he's up and active, the Furbo will send me a notification saying, Peppy and Oscar are getting a bit active now, would you like to throw them a treat? Or would you like to just check in on them? and it'll tell me when he's barking, when he's howling, whatever happens. I say when he is because Peppy just sleeps. She will lie in her bed. Sometimes you can watch her telling him off for being loud. Sometimes she'll just get sick of him and be like, be quiet. Which I don't mind too much. I know she's never going to do damage to him. I know he's never going to do damage to her. They're literally the best of friends now. So that's really, really lovely to see. But if we hear him barking, we can very quickly log onto the camera. If I can see that he's not settling down, I'll let him bark it out for maybe a minute, 2 minutes to try and see if he's going to stop. And if he doesn't, I will communicate via the camera and I'll go, go to bed. I'm not going to say it too loudly now because I don't want them both to leap up and run to their beds. But I'll say, no, that's enough, Oscar, go to your bed. And he will go straight to his bed. She doesn't massively understand when we're communicating through the Furbo, but he's very in tune with noises, sounds, smells, everything. If we hold up a phone with us FaceTiming Peppy, she won't understand and she'll wander off. He will sit there with his head cocked like this, trying to figure out where we are and what we're doing. And it's the same with the Furbo, which is perfect. So he will immediately go to his bed and he'll sit there and he'll quieten down. We also bought a pet spray. So it has certain herbs in it. I think one of them is vetiver. So it's a scented spray that you can spray on their bed, and essentially it just calms them down. And we have found that this makes a massive difference. We would previously spray it on the stairs when we let them have the stairs in the kitchen, but now we just spray it in his bed and it really does seem to calm him down. So when we say go to your bed, he just chills right out and then he'll go to sleep and he'll be fine until we come home. So that is something I would massively, massively recommend. Obviously, you can imagine we've been doing this for the last month and a half since we got him. So you can then appreciate that this stuff takes time. It's not going to be 1 week and that's it, done. Most people say that, I think most rescues are returned to the rescue centre within 3 months, which absolutely breaks my heart, because when you are getting a rescue, you need to understand that it's going to take a little bit more work than, say, a puppy or a dog that's come from an amazing life. With that, you have to understand that the work is going to be there and you need to put the work in. The dog just can't figure it out on its own. It needs you to help it. So yeah, those are the things that have massively helped us. So I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to talk to you about on separation anxiety. If you have any other questions, please feel free to drop them below. Also, don't be afraid to contact me over on Instagram. I respond to all my DMs and I love chatting to you guys about your dogs and your Pomeranians especially, but any dog. If you have any dog, I love to hear from you and I love seeing your dogs as well. So do get in touch, send me a picture. I love to chat to you guys, so it's always really, really lovely to see you over there. If this video has been useful, then please don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. Do hit the subscribe button because there are a few other behaviour difficulties, shall we say, that we're having with Oscar that I'm definitely going to talk about in future videos. And again, if you have any further questions on the subject, don't forget to drop them down below. And I look forward to seeing you in another video very soon. Bye.